Hey, what's going on, guys? Dan with Barrel Blazing Barbells. I know I haven't posted anything about guns too recently. I've been working on a lot of other stuff around the shop and around the house. So if you can't tell, I'm working on the truck right now. She broke 109,000 and you're supposed to change the spark plugs around 100. So I figured it's about time to get on that. And I've got a few of them sitting here already changed out. One of them was really rough looking. Yeah, that one there. I don't know how well it'll zoom in on that or not, but it's got a lot of corrosion and buildup on it. So got some AC Delco replacements I'm putting in. So I wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of what I found is the best way to get these things out so far. So all right, so what I did is I watched a few videos on YouTube. I watched a guy pull them from inside the engine bay, and I also watched a guy do what I did here and pulled the fender, the inner fender, I should say. Well, anytime you go to do something on a vehicle that's been sitting or you've been using it, you run into issues. So first issue was the lug nuts came off really well, but the rim was actually kind of seized on. So just for if you're going to do this and you don't know, use a rubber mallet. Or if you don't have a rubber mallet, get a 2x4 or a piece of wood and put it on the inside and drive it out. I know that sounds a little aggressive, but that's the only way to do it. There may be a puller that exists that I don't know about, but for what I got going on, just drive it off. There's actually the tire and rim sitting there. All you do is on the inside, but you hit on the inside wall, rotate it as you're doing it, hit it a few times, rotate it, hit it a few times, and so on and so forth. Eventually it will come loose. It just takes some driving and some effort. If it's really old, really rusted, really seized, put a 2x4 in there, have somebody hold the 2x4 on the rim. I know that's a terrible feeling to smack the inside of a rim, but if it's a steel rim, you're probably not gonna stand a chance of injuring it at all. Aluminum, a little more, but still not so much. Other notes on this that I've discovered. I do not know how this is supposed to come off. There is a bolt right there. I did not take it loose. I did not need to. And this is all attached together. I think that bolt will take that all the way off. It's currently just popping, just hanging there. So as you can see, there's a bunch of plastic tabs on the inside here. They're little white tabs that hold it. There's holes in there. It just kind of pushes up on there. All I did was start from the front. There's a whole bunch of little screws that run all the way around the inside here. And I took everything except for that back one, that bolt that I said I didn't want to mess with because I don't know what all that goes into. I didn't feel like jacking with it. I was able to get it out without messing with it. I'm not dealing with it. Somebody else might know how to do it. I'm just not. I didn't see the need. As we go putting stuff back together, it might become an issue. I don't know. Now, as far as the inner fender flare goes, or the inner fender well, it's actually sitting over here. This thing, as you can see, there's two holes there, a hole there, a hole there, a hole there. There's like 15 screws that hold this thing in. Just take your time pulling them out because they're in weird spots. They're like up in here and over here, and you can't see where they're at. So just kind of feel around, pull on it a little bit. Okay, it's not coming out. It should literally fall out. When you get all the screws out, you should just be able to push it and it'll just fall. Nothing too complicated there, but just before you go ripping and tearing and breaking stuff, it should fall out. Now, as for changing the spark plugs, you can see from this angle, that one's pretty easy. That one, it's pretty easy. This one is behind the, I believe that's the brake lines there that run down. But I was still able to use a pair of pullers. They're spark plug cap pullers. You just reach back in there. They're a little long, little tight, but I was able to get them out. Now, a lot of people will just, on the older trucks, it isn't an issue. You can get up in the engine bay and just reach down in there and pop all of them out. Not a big deal. On these newer trucks, there's a lot more electronics. They're a lot more compressed on space. So it's a lot harder to just reach down in there and yank them out. So I pulled the top three from the engine bay and that back one, there's just no way to do it. If you've seen my video on the rims and tires, you've seen how much higher my truck sits. It does have a little level kit, so it sits a little bit higher than stock, and getting up into the engine bay is just not, it's just not an option. I'm 6'2", and still I was using step ladder to get in there. So what I did was I opted to pull the inner fender flare, or fender well, I keep saying flare, but fender well, so I can get, where's it at? That guy right there. So I'm gonna get up in there with a socket, and let me grab a hold of it here. Got a socket and an extension, and this wobble box, universal joint, whatever you want to call it, comes out pretty easy. So I'll show you guys some videos on getting the other side done too. Okay, so I opted to change something. I had the long socket on there on this side, and I ended up changing it out for my little, I think it's a 3-inch extension there, but you can see there's some serious wear and tear on this spark plug. It's got some like bulging on the center there, and I think it's corrosion. So yeah, definitely need to change. So probably get a little better fuel mileage when I get this done. But yeah, the shorter extension worked well. Was able to reach back in there. It's a pretty deep hole. You can see it right there. So yeah, we're gonna keep driving. All right, guys, so I got everything back in there. I got the spark plug put back in, cap back on. Yeah, buddy. Sorry, I'm watching my kid today while I'm working on this. Put the fender well back in. I got 2 of the screws started and just kind of lined everything up, and then went all the way around, put all the screws back in. I did find there was a long piece right here and a small piece on that side right there that had those plastic tabs, those like retainer clips. I'm pretty sure they were just sitting in there. They just kind of keep the thing stable because they just fell out when I pulled it out. I don't think they were broke. I think they were just sitting in there. There's like a keyway that they kind of sit into. So yeah, that went fairly smooth. But while I had this off, had the tire off, which is here, I'm gonna go ahead and pop this one off, move it to the front, rotate this one to the back. These are, again, my other video that I did. These are the Road 1 Cavalry MTs. There's my son playing with the door there. But these are this was the front. As you can see, I mean, they're fairly new, but I don't see any crazy wear so far, nothing looking abnormal or seeing anything kind of cupping or anything like that. So far, pretty happy with these tires. There's a shot looking across. I will say I did talk about the rubbing issue. If you look right here, see that dark spot? It's like white here and then dark right there. And if you notice, it's like on every single of the side tread there. What is hitting is that right there. It's actually rubbing on the sway bar, and it's actually doing that on both sides. So it's a pretty minimal rub, but you know, if you're worried about that, you can either change your offset on your wheels or put spacers on here. I'm not a big fan of wheel spacers. I ran those once and they made for major vibration. So that was just my personal experience. I won't run those again, but and I've talked to other people. Off-road vehicles, that's fine because your high-speed stuff is minimal and it's usually so much vibration you can't tell anyways. But for your everyday driver on road, I stay away from it. So yeah, I'm gonna get these rotated and then we're gonna start out on the other side. All right, so for the passenger side, I know that the rear spark plug is a real pain in the ass to get to. So for that one, because I already knew I was gonna have a hard time with it, I'm not even gonna mess with trying to get in the engine bay and tearing them out. I'm just gonna go straight for pulling the fender, the inner fender out, and you know, go that route. So already got the other side buttoned back up, tires are rotated, good to go there. We're gonna tear this side apart and get it rolling. Okay, so I don't know if you can tell right now, but I am sweating profusely. And if you look at the tire here, you can kind of see how it's kind of angled out here. Beat on it and beat on it and beat on it. Could not get it to come loose. It just wasn't happening. So, something you can do. I don't recommend doing this. It's just, in some situations, you don't really have a choice. You got to do what you got to do. So first thing, make sure there is nothing underneath the vehicle other than the jack. If you're going to do this, if it's stuck and you can't get it off, lift it up, make sure everything's clear, make sure everybody's clear, and then open that sucker up. Like, just drop it down as hard as you can, and it pop it right off. So just a little side note there. As you can see, I do have a floor jack over here. Just for safety's sake, make sure you have floor jacks. You don't want your hydraulic jack to drop a 7,500 pound vehicle on your chest. It will not be a good day for anybody. So just a little piece of information as a learning note. You can do it. I don't recommend it, but it does work. All right, guys, so I'm gonna show you this third one that everybody has such a hard time with. It's not easy to get to. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 is right there. Let me shed the light a little further. You can just see the tip of it there. You can see the plug wire hanging right there, but it's literally right there. And it's behind this piece of firewall right here. It's a real bear to get to. So the experts tell me that this is the guy to use, so we'll see what happens. All right, guys, so I'm not gonna lie, that was a huge pain in the ass. Getting back there behind the firewall to do this is a real pain in the ass. And getting the spark plug broke loose is the hardest part. Once you get it broke loose, as you can see, that universal really makes it handy to put back in there. See if I can get it to zoom there. See how that thing rolls around. Makes it so much easier to get out, but trying to get back in there, I found that the best way for me to do it was to literally put the spark plug extension on the universal, stick it back in there and put it on, then put the socket or the ratchet back in there and put the ratchet on the universal and get it on that way. And then it was a heck of a time getting it broke loose. I'm just afraid of always breaking spark plug off in the block, because you do that, it's a bad day. So we're close. We're real close. All right, guys, got it all buttoned back up. Nothing on this side other than that rear spark plug that's anything terribly difficult. Everything went pretty much the same on this side as the other side. I'm gonna swap out the tires for rotation front to rear and button it up. One thing I will say before you start this, or before you get too far into it, before you button this up, I do recommend on either side starting the vehicle. Make sure it runs for 30 seconds, a minute. Make sure you don't have any weird shakes or vibrations, because you might have not gotten the spark plug threaded all the way in, or you might not have the plug wire seated all the way on, which will cause vibration. It's easier to fix that when you're messing around with with all this out, and fix it then versus having to tear it back apart. So just a little note, something to think about before you start digging into it. So I hope this video helps you out. If you got any other questions, let me know and we'll address them. You guys have a good one.